Not allowed to leave the green room. Oh my goodness. All right, we are live. Welcome to the Fox Den,
Yeah,
Thursday night, normal time. Hi, Mama.
we're kind of sort of back to normal. Kind of sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
Okay,
Yeah,
there's nothing normal about us, so whatever.
my voice is kind of gone. And if you guys have been trying to pay attention to my dilemma with all the stuff with the tube that was down my nose and all that stuff, I'm going to be asking Brent, our guest tonight, okay, because, he has miraculous formulas, scientific ways of miraculous healing, and hopefully maybe he can do something for me because this is supposed to be for people like me at wit's end with all these tests. Because now, what's the result of me doing all this, which was supposed to be my last test?
You're perfect.
More tests.
Oh, shite.
No, I have to go back to the beginning. They're like, okay, well, when was the last time you had the scope down there that took pictures? I said, well, 2.5 years ago when it started. Oh, well, I need to have that. I'm like,
Just don't tell you to smile.
so,
ah, just,
that's what that is. But let me show this bio video. If you haven't seen the ad for the show, let me show the bio video, and then we will have Brent come on as soon as it's done. This week in the Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, we welcome Brent Michael Phillips. He was a world-class software engineer from MIT and helped to create the modern internet during his time at graduate school at MIT. After leaving MIT to pursue a technology startup, he experienced a staggering physical challenge, and years of chronic pain and failed treatments led doctors to put him on permanent disability. With his right arm paralyzed after an experimental surgery, Brent went to a healer and experienced his first miracle when his arm instantly and permanently healed. Knowing his life path was fortuitously altered, he then spent years studying with the world's best master healers, gurus, psychics, and spiritual teachers to discover and reverse engineer the scientific laws and principles underlying miraculous instant healing, financial abundance, loving relationships, and even enlightenment. He is the creator of Awakening Dynamics System, which consists of advanced consciousness technologies for subconscious clearing, instant healing, manifestation, seeing energy and auras, and the ascension of consciousness from awakening to enlightenment. Brent is also an award-winning author and Amazon.com #1 best-selling co-author and the inventor of the patent-pending Formula for Miracles technology. His greatest passions are teaching healing and helping others to experience their own genuine spiritual awakening. To learn more, get his books for free, and join Brent live to experience block clearing and higher consciousness, please visit awakeningdynamics.com. And we welcome you to the Fox Den, Brent. I love that smiling box. Welcome, Brent.
Oh, this is great. Excited to be here.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I am excited that maybe you can help me, like by working your program and whatnot. I don't know, because you heard a little bit of what I was saying. I have an issue
Yep.
going on, and you
Yeah.
can tell I don't have a voice right now. This is all due to
Yeah.
acid, which I've been waiting. I was waiting for like a year and a half to get this last test done. Finally, get it scheduled with a tube going down your nose and everything. What happens? My belly doesn't act up. The heartburn doesn't act up. Nothing happened that day. And
Of
then
course not.
on your nose.
when I took it out, it was like, oh my God, I was in such agony, and I've been in agony every day since. And I'm just
Well,
like, it's a par for the course. Hi, Colette. How are you? Welcome to the show. So share, please share. And so I'm like, and I have to, all I have is book 2 for you. And we had you actually booked previously, and we had to, I don't know if you canceled or I canceled, something happened.
yeah,
And
something
It's my
happened a
fault.
year ago.
My
yeah, it
fault.
was
I,
a long time. I mean, we wait a long time to schedule the show, and then to reschedule the show is usually just as long. And now I'm booking in, I think, November. So yeah, it's tough. But I don't have book 1. But so I start reading this, And I have to say, I was really lost at the beginning with all the math. And I'm pretty good at math, but it's like the scientific methods included with the math was kind of throwing me off. But the end of this book, that I got. That's amazing, So we'll
Yep.
get into it. But now, all right, so the people that are coming in now, hi, Debbie, that didn't see the bio video. Hi, Dave. Explain again. Now, how did you get into this, and what happened with your arm? And is that what started all of this?
It's sort of. And so I'll try to keep it kind of short. I could go on for hours and hours, right? Long drama, but here's the gist of it. I grew up as your typical nerd, right? I love Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff, right? Some of your listeners might have beat me up in high school. I'm not sure. So I was just a huge geek. And so I ended up in college at MIT. Seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. I could have gone to Harvard, but I visited both, and I thought Harvard was like it. It's a totally different energy. But I'm like MIT. These are geeks, practical jokes, Monty Python. These are my people, right?
I love Monty Python.
Yeah. So, and you actually, if you can't quote Monty Python, you will get your butt kicked, at least in grad school at MIT. It's just where they're waiting for you, right? So, MIT was amazing. Just a huge crucible. And when I was at MIT, I discovered the internet, which, of course, to the younger people today, you're like, what? But back in the 80s, when I went to college, no one had heard of the internet. And so I fell crazy in love with the internet and made that the focus of my studies. So I went on to grad school and really focused on internetworking. And that's when the internet boom started. Mm-hmm. And so it was in 1994, me and a couple guys in my group, we sent the first ever live audio video synchronized stream over the web. So we were doing some really cool stuff. Yep. And so I figured, well, this is the gold rush of my generation. And so I didn't even finish my PhD. I just left. I'm like, I'm going to move to California, start an internet company, sell it for millions of dollars. And by the time I'm 30, I'll be living on a tropical island, spending my days hot tubbing with supermodels. That was the plan, right?
That didn't work.
There's an old joke that goes something like this: what's the surest way to make God laugh? Just tell him your plans. Yep, just tell him your plans, right? And so things actually got off to a decent start. When I came out of MIT, I recruited my lifelong best friend, and we started a website company. And again, it sounds really funny today, but when we started this company in early 1995, the very first website we did, the first website in my whole life, was doing the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation.
Really?
The first website. How crazy is that? Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I love your website, by the way. Your website's awesome.
I think when we went into pitch site day, I was 24, Josh was 23, and Brian was 25. And we had no experience. And they handed us a check and said, bring us a website in 3 months. And so we did. And we created some really amazing websites. We did the website for Disneyland, which was awesome. We had free passes for like 2 years. Go to Disneyland anytime you wanted for free. Yeah, that was cool. We did the website for Nissan Motors. We even did this cool video where we smashed a car with sledgehammers and turned it into an interactive game on the website. So we were really pushing the limits of what was possible in 1995, 96. But that was kind of boring to me. What I wanted to do was I wanted to take my graduate school research and apply it to create a brand new kind of video game that no one had ever seen before. What today they're called MOGs, or multiplayer massive player online games. So games like EverQuest, World of Warcraft, you've probably heard of. Mm-hmm. But back in the early to mid 90s, that seemed like a pipe dream. But I believed I could do it, and I did. And I created what was the world's first massively multiplayer 3D online game. It was called Underlight. But the downside was, in order to not only run the website company, but also create groundbreaking technology with the games, I was working 80, 100, sometimes 110 hours a week. It was just nuts. I was at the office generally 14 to 16 hours per day, 7 days a week. And at first I figured, well, this is an acceptable sacrifice. I'll work my butt off for a couple of years in my 20s and be rewarded with the aforementioned millions of dollars and hot tub full of supermodels, right? Instead, my body broke down. I kept up this brutal work schedule for about a year and a half, but then my body started to rebel. I started having pain and tingles and numbness and all these things. And long story short, I wasn't too worried. I figured, oh, my body hurts. I'll go to the doctor. They'll know what to do, right? Because up to that point in my life, it always seemed to work that way, right? Oh, I'm sick. You go to the doctor. They give you something. You get better, right? And so, again, long story short, that was the beginning of a 3-year journey of physical therapy. I just kept getting sent up the food chain. Nothing was working for me. I ended up at the Curlin Job Clinic, which is probably the top physical therapy clinic in the Western United States. So there I am next to like Lakers and Dodgers and Olympic athletes, right? And I was going for, yep, I really thought I was getting the best care. And I was there doing 3-hour sessions 3 times a week for almost 2 years. And after 2 years, I finally got an appointment to see the head doctor. And I was so excited because the therapy wasn't helping me. I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse. I was having more pain. I could barely drive my car. I had to pull over every 5 or 10 minutes just because holding a steering wheel caused me too much pain. I couldn't even read books because holding a book open was too painful. And some days I had to go and have my mother help me cut my food. I was in so much pain, I couldn't even cut my food. So it was getting really bad. And everything kind of blew up right after I saw the head doctor. Because I was figuring, oh, this guy's the best. He'll know what to do. He'll tell me I'll be out of pain. I can get my life back, right? Instead, it was the opposite. I remember I walked into his office. He was kind of this, stately, older Southern gentleman kind of looking. And kind of like Colonel Sanders if he was a doctor, kind of, right? Not exactly, but kind of. And I remember he was looking at my charts, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? Right? And he just goes, well, I'm sorry, son. There's nothing I or any doctor can do here. You're always going to be in pain, and you're never going to be able to work.
What?
And I was so stunned, I couldn't even speak. I was just like, and I remember the last thing he said before I left. He asked me, he goes, son, you got someone that can take care of you until you die?
Oh my God.
Yes, that's what he asked me. And I was 27 years old at the time.
Oh my God.
And I remember on the way out, his secretary said, oh, Mr. Phillips, the doctor's doing you a huge favor. He's recommending you for permanent lifetime disability, which is almost unheard of for someone in their 20s, unless you're paralyzed or blind or missing multiple limbs or something really awful. And she said, oh, by the way, please don't ever come back. We can't be wasting our scarce resources on impossible cases.
Oh, Lord.
So that was that. They closed the book on me and put me on lifetime disability and sent me home to die. And I was shocked. And I went and told my business partner and lifelong best friend, his name is Josh. I suppose it still is. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a long time, right? Yeah. You could have changed it, right?
You never know.
Yeah. You never know, right? And so I figured he'd be all, hey, buddy, I got your back. We'll get through it together. Because we were close. We were so close. We were like brothers. A lot of people thought we were gay lovers. Because we were just, it's an overused word in the New Age world, but we were soulmates. If I've ever had a soulmate in my life, it was him, right? He was amazing. And instead, he just said, sorry, if you can't work, you're of no use to us. So he played a bunch of legal games to steal the company from me. That I had literally, we had been best friends all since junior high, closer than most brothers. And he basically played these games to steal the company from me. He sold it for about $3 million behind my back. And there were lawsuits. Wow. And I also found out he had been secretly dating the woman that I was crazy in love with.
Oh, come on.
So
tell me his name and address, and I'll find him and kick his butt.
Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you offline. Yep.
We know Josh.
Right. I think there's some law against inciting violence on a podcast, so I'll tell you offline. Cool. Awesome. Yeah.
But I'm
you can ask Trump that.
Terrible.
But
So that was a nightmare. And here's the thing that really will eat at you. During the middle of this, he inherited over $10 million from his grandfather.
So he didn't
need the money.
At all.
The money was almost meaningless to him.
So
And
what is
I was there living with my parents.
Money corrupts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no path forward in life. That money would have absolutely changed everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, it was just like, a rounding error. And so it was devastating. I was depressed.
What happened with the lawsuits, though? Did they not go anywhere?
I eventually got a little bit of money. Long story short, had they paid me what I was owed, my share should have been a little shy of $1 million.
Okay.
I got about 50 grand.
That's it.
Damn.
After
an insult.
2 lawsuits, paying the lawyers, blah, blah, blah. And that was before taxes. After taxes, it's even less than that. And just so you know, just my lost earnings during that time with the startups, I was offered a job at Oracle for a $90,000 salary, plus stock options. So had I taken that, I would have been worth probably that.
However,
$20 million, right?
Right. But
that's not what happened.
However, this is the result. This
well,
system
it's
and what you're doing now.
They say that if you change all the bad stuff in your life, you wouldn't be who you are, right?
That's
exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah, the way I see it is pretty much. Well, at the time, it was devastating.
Of course.
I mean, it's understandable.
Of course.
I was young. I had
you can't
dreams.
Even do anything about it because you're disabled at the time, and the doctors are telling you, there's nothing we can do for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I was in so much pain. I had trouble just getting my doctor's appointments, right?
Oh my
gosh. So I was depressed. I was drinking too much. I was using drugs. I was suicidal. I mean, all the bad things you can imagine from anyone in that situation. I was totally self-destructive, but I was very lucky that I had a friend of mine pull me out of it. He said, Brent, killing yourself is not going to get justice. It's not going to help you. It's not going to teach anyone a lesson, right?
Yep.
He said, if you really want to get back at Josh, maybe you should improve your life. And so, long story short, I got into self-improvement. Now, back in the 90s, we called it positive thinking. Nowadays, we call it the law of attraction. But just so you know, it's all the same stuff, right? No different. Jump up on the stage, shout out that you're a millionaire, join a mastermind, make a vision board, say your mantras, that kind of stuff, right? And it's not wrong. It's just it didn't do. Yeah, exactly. Go secret. Even though the secret was still 10 years in the future at this point, right? It was the stuff in the secret, right?
Yeah.
And so for about 6 months, I was the weekend warrior, going to my seminars, right? And after about 6 months of it, I'm like, well, I've spent like $6,000 on these seminars and made like 9 vision boards. And I'd been saying my mantras exactly 108 times every single day because someone said if you do that for 6 months, everything has to come true. But nothing changed. And so I kind of threw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm like, all this hippie positive thinking is nonsense, right? And I got so angry, I didn't just throw out my vision boards. I burned them in my fireplace. And then I jumped up and down on the ashes a little bit when I was done for good measure, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I was depressed, started drinking, using drugs. I mean, same stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then I was very lucky. I had another friend of mine who was I was going to the gym with, my weightlifting buddy. And he said, hey, Brent, you need to try alternative medicine. He goes, yeah, for simple stuff, doctors are fine. But for these complex things, real chronic issues, Western medicine doesn't have the answer. Yeah. So long story short, I went deep into alternative medicine. And for the next 5 years,
we're just manifesting this. Sharon's helping me manifest that.
Yeah, why not?
Get out in the universe.
Go take some of those dollars. And you guys want to know a shortcut to becoming a billionaire?
Yeah.
Take your dollars and go buy like the Turkish lira or the Zimbabwe dollar, and you'll have $1 billion.
A millionaire. There you go.
Yep. You'll have it because they're so inflated. Yeah, you could probably take $1,000 and become a billionaire. So there you go, right?
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so there's your shortcut. Also, just fun fact, did you guys know that the dictionary definition of millionaire is someone who has made at least $1 million in their life? So
I guess
just
we
putting
all
out there,
have some.
Add it all
yeah,
up. We
a lot
did
more
that.
people are millionaires than realize, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
If you're 50, 60 years old, you've worked your whole life, you're probably a millionaire. Now,
Yeah. I knew it.
cash millionaire means you have $1 million sitting in a bank account. That's a
Yeah.
little higher bar, right? But anyhow,
That's a
so
whole lot
back to our
higher.
story. For 5 years, I was more or less living with my parents,
Mhm.
spending all my disability stipend and running up credit card debt going to alternative medicine.
Okay.
And so, you name it, acupuncture, herbs, cleanses, chi machines, breath work, right? Yoga, Pilates, Reiki. I mean, I could go on and on. I had these chi machines, vibration machines, cold lasers, magnets. I mean, I
I've
could talk
never
to you
heard
guys all day and all night, right?
all of the stuff I've heard of except for a chi machine. What is it? Throwing energy
Mm.
balls at you? What
It's
is
basically, it's really the technology. It's a subsonic stimulator, so it uses sound waves.
Okay.
Just they call it a chi machine because I've done a lot of martial arts, and you can learn how to like build up a charge of chi with your hands to
And
lay it
throw it.
on to do simple healings on people, right? And when you use it, it feels a little bit like that. That's why they call it that.
Okay, that's what I was
So
asking. That energy.
it's a subsonic stimulator is what's really going on technically, which I think
Okay.
there's cool stuff, right? And just so you know, all these things I did, it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
They had all these incredible stories. Everybody else was getting better but me. And it was really frustrating. So 5 years, I'm on disability, running around, spending my whole life and all my money. I racked up like 50 grand in credit card debt. And I didn't get better. I got worse. And so you guys, since we have a long show today, you guys get the more in-depth version of the story. Here's the truth. My lawyer told me, Brent, I'm not sure how long we can keep you on disability unless you have surgery. And I'm like, what kind of surgery? He's like, I don't care. That's just the law. He goes, if you have surgery, we can keep disability longer. And so I went to my doctor and said, is there a surgery I can have that might help? And she said, sure, referred me to a doctor who was doing a study with an experimental surgery for people with orthopedic elbow issues. It seemed like a good fit. So I applied for the study. I was accepted. The upside is it didn't cost me anything, right? So they paid for everything, which was cool. But here's the downside. I went and had the surgery, and I woke up and my right arm was paralyzed. Oops. And the doctor was just like, oh, well, that's too bad. And on to the next thing.
Experimental.
He didn't care.
Yeah.
You realize these doctors, right? You sign all those papers that signs your life away. But I had a hysterectomy where he nicked my kidney and tore my bladder. I mean, I went in the morning. It was supposed to be like a couple hours surgery, wake up 10 o'clock, go home, blah, blah, blah. And I wake up in my room, because now I'm admitted, at 10 o'clock at night in the pitch black, hearing orderlies.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Saying, oh, she's out of it. She won't wake up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, what are they talking about? And then, how when you're coming out of anesthesia. And I wake up and I'm in a dark room. And do you realize that my doctor did not even have the cojones to come in and tell me what happened? A nurse did.
They can't.
Wow.
They can't because then they're
sometimes
admitting
legally
error.
they can't. Yeah.
Yeah, because then they're admitting
it's
error
crazy,
or whatever. So.
And so, I mean, we all know what the medical system's like in this country, right? So I couldn't use my arm. And this was a whole nother level of disability beyond what I'd done before. I couldn't drive at all now.
Wow.
I had trouble getting dressed. I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't shave. It was a nightmare. And so, long story short, it was frozen and paralyzed for about 5 months, 4 or 5 months. I wore splints in my sleep. I had a CPM machine, which is this big hydraulic monster that applies force to your joints. I was doing all these things. They tried manipulation under local anesthetic. That didn't work. When my surgeon heard about it, he goes, oh, we don't do that anymore. Sometimes the heart attack can kill you because it's so painful.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh, you should have told me that, right? So
was I going to be part of this information?
Exactly. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this, right? But anyhow, so after about 4 or 5 months, I'm really desperate, suicidal again. I've really seen my life is over. And my Aunt Lauren told me about her friend Terry. She's like, hey, Brent, Terry almost died last year. She had a really bad exposure to black mold, and she almost died. And she found this energy healing system that literally had saved her life. Okay. And Terry was no slouch. She was Wharton School MBA, super smart, made lots of money, like, really successful, New York City career girl, talks 100 miles an hour, the type, right? And she quit her job to be a professional healer. Wow. And I still remember seeing the email she sent out. She was like, hey, everyone, I know this sounds crazy, but I quit my job at Arco because she had worked in finance there. And I'm now doing energy healing full time. And I was just like, haha, looks like another one went off the deep end of the new age pool, right? And I didn't think about it. But my Aunt Lauren kept calling me. She's like, Brent, have you seen Terry? I'm like, what about her? Go have a session with her. I've done energy healing. It didn't do anything, right? Because I had done Reiki and Pilates and a bunch of hands-on and things like that, right? I had done, what's the pranic healing and a lot of the common ones. Yeah, it hadn't done anything for me. But I agreed. I said, Lauren, if you promise to stop nagging me, I'll go see Terry. She's like, done, right? And Lauren even paid for the first session. She just said, if you like it, you owe me dinner. And I was like, fine, right? Deal. And so, yeah, I didn't have anything better to do that day, right? Other than sit around and be depressed and consider killing myself. So I went to see Terry. And she introduced me to the concept of the subconscious, which I knew a little about. I had done some NLP before, because NLP was super popular at MIT, Noam Chomsky, Media Lab. There's a whole history there. And I thought it was interesting, but it hadn't really helped me. I'm like, I don't need to quit smoking. I'm not looking to take strokes off my golf game. Why do I need a hypnotist, right? Didn't make sense. But Terry showed me how to talk to the subconscious and said, Brent, a lot of this is just subconscious blocks. And I was like, yeah, sure, Terry, whatever. Yeah, Terry, whatever, right? So we were there for an hour. She's asking me about my childhood and what happened with my parents and my best friend. And, I was married at the time, and there were a lot of issues with my first wife. And so it was very interesting. I'll give her that, right? And she's doing this energy healing and block clearing and muscle testing and all this stuff. And after like an hour or so, she's like, okay, Brent, I think we're ready to heal your arm. And I'm like, yeah, you and what army, right? But I'm like, what do I do? She's like, just sit and relax. It'll take less than a minute. It's like, sure, whatever, Terry. And so I'm like looking out the window. I remember I was looking out the window and there were some birds chirping near the window. And I was thinking about, what do I want to get for lunch on the way home? So that's where my head is, right? I wasn't thinking about a miracle. I'm like, this was fun. What's next, right?
Yeah.
And it was the craziest thing. She kind of went into a trance and her eyes rolled back into her head. And she's there, because kind of had this, kind of glossy look on her face. And then the craziest thing, there was a loud pop that came out of my arm. It was a crack, right? Those little cracks that we get as we age. Imagine that times 100. Like so loud, you're like, ow, it hurt my ears, right? This really kaboom crack. And then she opened her eyes and she said, okay, dear, let's try your arm now. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I can move my arm. It's like, holy crap, right? I'll try to keep it G-rated here, right? I don't think that's what I actually said, but in case there's children listening, right? Yeah, in case there's children listening, it was a little more adult. But I was shocked. It was a miracle. I could move my arm without pain. It was just like that botched surgery had never happened. And so that was the miracle that turned this nerdy software engineer from MIT into, lifelong devotee of energy healing, consciousness, mind power, all this stuff.
I was doing like the Reiki prana classes, right? I was doing this thing and I was pulling the energy, we were doing this thing of scanning the body, and this girl, she had a really bad stomach issue. So it's like I'm scanning the body, I get to the belly, I knew it. I could feel it. So I'm working on it. Everyone's talking around, talking. I'm just like, now I'm sweating and everything. I'm like really trying to heal. We were just practicing. I'm really trying to heal. And all of a sudden it sounded just like this. just like that. Everybody heard it.
Yep.
It went from her stomach into mine.
Wow.
And then I had all the pain. I was like, oh my God, I felt like I got hit by a bowling ball. Right?
Well,
so then I had to learn how to not take it into myself and to get rid of it. So
that's actually something I learned from Terry is if you do healing wrong, you can take it into your body. You got to be careful.
Exactly. 100%. So now was she okay? So now this is your catalyst into this because now you're healed.
Yep.
Are you running?
I want to be honest with everyone. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. It's not like all my problems got solved that day. No, I still had chronic pain. I was still broke. I was still depressed. I was still in a bad marriage. I still was full of self-loathing. I learned years later, I also had Lyme disease. I had chronic Lyme for 17 years. I also discovered in my 40s, I realized that I've had autism my whole life. I'm what's called high-functioning autistic. And I learned, again, not until my 40s, like 15 years after all this, that I was also suffering from chemical poisoning from aspartame, which is NutraSweet from diet soda.
And it was in every single thing that we ate and drank.
Yep. And so all this together created this basically toxic witch's brew that destroyed my life. And so all my chronic stuff did not heal in an hour. But the frozen elbow from the surgery did. Never gave me trouble again. And so I was like, I got to learn this.
That is a miracle. It truly is. And it is the beginning of the changing your life. It's like, I swear, it's like, I'm going to use the G word. Like God knew you needed something. You needed something, just to start, because that's what it is. We'll gloom and doom ourselves to death, but once you get that one little glimmer of hope and light.
It was important because all the doubt that kept up, I could always go back to my rock of that miracle because I knew that happened. I was there, right?
Right.
I knew this really happened, that there really is something to this energy healing, to this, what I had seen as kind of woo-woo hippie stuff. Because I grew up in Orange County, which is very culturally conservative. The attitude was, all that hippie stuff, that's just for stupid people that don't know how to go to real doctors. That was my attitude.
Wow.
And I couldn't have been more wrong, right?
Yeah.
And the good news, that's part of being a good scientist. A good scientist is always willing to be wrong given new data.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I was wrong about everything my whole life. Well then, let's make an adjustment and move forward. So there you go. Yep.
We'll just erase this part here. We'll just kind of file those. There's every wrong file. I did it wrong.
And they're over.
Yep.
But you did.
And that was over 20 years ago now.
Yeah. What was your first
2003.
Steps? I mean, I know you had to clean up. You had to clean up everything your whole life. But what were your first steps?
I think the first thing for me was I needed to do a lot more of the energy healing to clean up my emotional body. And so spent about the next year really doing intensive energy healing, taking every training I could, working with Terry every week, practice groups, weekend seminars, all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. I was also continuing with all the physical therapy. And this is where it gets so interesting. Because if we look at like the year before the miracle and the year after, aside from the elbow surgery, everything else was kind of the same. I had the same physical therapist. I had the same orthopedic doctor. I was, living in the same place. I had the same car, the same wife. None of that changed. But here's the crazy thing. Before I started doing the energy healing, I was just getting worse and worse over time. No matter how much therapy I did, I just got worse. I had more pain, less movement. I was on a downhill slope. Once I started doing the energy healing, even though nothing outside of that changed, I started to improve. It was slow. It took maybe 2, 3, 4 years to really make a dent in the chronic pain, but it started moving. And it was funny that when I first started this, when I decided I wanted to be a professional healer like Terry, I had it in my mind that I had to be completely healed of all my issues first. And I say that it's funny now because that was over 20 years ago. Just so everyone knows, had I waited till all my issues were healed, I'd still be waiting.
Still be waiting.
That's not how life goes, right? That's not how life goes.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time cleaning myself up. And then I went to open my business and it flopped and I had another crisis and blah, blah, blah. Went through a divorce, tried again. Finally, it all clicked. And I mean, there's so much drama after that we haven't even gotten into awakening or movement or the embodiment or the sort of more advanced side of the work. That came years later with my second teacher, who I consider my late mentor, Carl. But, that this really happened. And my goal is simple. I want to bring a more rigorous scientific engineering perspective to energy healing and meditation. It's that simple.
Because that is your life. So you're going to say like
that's
that.
Who I am.
Of all the things that you did wrong in your life, the one thing that you did do right was be a nerd, right?
Yes. Well, I did it. Let's be fair. I did maybe 2 or 3 things right in my life and millions of mistakes, right?
Okay, all right.
I'd say it was definitely deciding to have a family and be a father was a good decision.
That's
probably the best thing I ever did.
Right. That goes on the top. Okay.
I think going to MIT was a good decision.
Yeah.
At the time, it's exactly where I needed to be for who I was and who I thought I was going to be. Yeah. And I think maybe number 4 would be coming here on the show. Everything else is a bad decision. Yeah. I think every other decision I've made has been bad.
Let me write out the check for that now.
All right. Yep. Yeah, it's if you wouldn't mind, if you could send Bitcoin, to a PO box in Tijuana, that'd be awesome. Right.
I've got a Bitcoin machine at my corner convenience store near where I work.
Awesome. So cool. Yep. Yes. And so ever since then, that was over 20 years ago. It's my mission is simple. I want to get out there with just a different approach to this work. I'm not necessarily the world's best intuitive. I wasn't born with a huge gift like some people. But what I have done is I've worked my butt off and I've applied all these things I learned from science and engineering to the world of energy healing and meditation.
Oh, yeah.
And so for people looking for a more down-to-earth, practical, measured, a little more masculine approach, that's what I'm here for. And it is interesting that most places in the energy healing world, you're looking like 90% women. My audience is pretty close to 50-50, which I think is pretty neat. It's still a little female heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 60-40.
Yeah, because men,
and that's because I think
it's that's not going to work. That's woo woo. That's this. That's that.
Exactly.
I need a doctor, and I need to get massage, and it's not a good massage. It's like let's kill you massage. It's like that's not helping.
That's right. And it's funny how a lot of this bias we have is wrong. That there's a stretch company that opened up near me, and they told me they had a big problem because they assumed only women were going to come in. That it was going to be all the yoga moms coming in to get stretched, but they were wrong. It was more men than women.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have any of the clothing or socks they needed to sell because they had all women's sizes and colors.
Yeah, there we go.
So, again, I don't care who I work with, young, old, green, purple, black, human, Martian, man, woman, doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Ginger? Yeah, no, I can't.
I have my health issues. Mama's got her health issues. My Bob, he had an accident at work similar to what Mama D did. She ended up doing the splits in a store and tore the muscle, like off the bone. And Bob had a 600-pound piece of a bus come hit him on the hip that did the same thing. So like 2 different ways of it happening, but the same thing happened. And they're both still suffering.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
So, okay.
Doctors told me I would have been better off if I had broken something than it would have healed, but because I tore the hamstring. And
generally, you're generally better off a clean break of a bone versus tearing a tendon or connective tissue. Yep.
Yeah.
I did that too. So doctors told me exactly the same thing. They're like, "Oh man, you would have been better off breaking your foot." I'm like, yeah. It wasn't really a choice, right?
I did. I had when I was a teenager, I was a crazy wild girl. We were drinking and stuff, and went skiing. And I don't ski. All my friends were like instructors and been going to things that lessons and everything. And I'm like, let's just go up there. And, I slept boots into skis, no bindings, no nothing. They were stuck in there. And I'm going barreling down the hill. I made it fine. I'll let it fall over to stop, And then they go, let's go one more time. One more time.
No. Yep.
Hit the moguls. And I go, doing like cartwheels basically down the mountain and ended up like the typical
ski crash landing.
Family Guy, when they have that Family Guy, that was me on the mountain. Dragged me off the mountain in a stretcher, tore all the ligaments and tendons in my ankle. So while one's getting better, the other's getting worse. And I wouldn't let them because I'm drunk. Like, you are not going to take this boot off of me. As my sister's a nurse, when I get home, I'll have her look at it. That was mistake number one. And then as soon as I took the boot off and went from the compression of that boot to it being in the air, it just like poofed instantly and started whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm like, oh my God. But going to the hospital, there's no broken bones, So it just torn ligaments and tendons. And what a nightmare that was.
Oh yeah. I know what that's like. Unfortunately, being a veteran of many injuries, I was lucky when I fell skiing. Same thing. I was with friends who were better than me. I wanted to go home. They convinced me one last run, and I was on the first time in my life I had my own skis. I'd always rented before, so my first day on my own skis, I came over the lip. Giant moguls, caught a few turns, and then but they made me ski down. They're like, you can stand, just ski down. I'm like, I have a broken arm. They're like, yeah, ski down, you're fine. So I had to go up the chair. I had to ski down, go up the chairlift to the top of the mountain, and ski all the way down with the broken arm. How fun was that?
I definitely couldn't move. I was like all mangled, and my skis didn't come out. The boots didn't come out of the skis.
Oh, they didn't. Yeah, my knees didn't release.
I needed to be like untwisted.
Yeah,
I was a lot more limber then, and I think.
I was the smartest of the three of us. I just did the après ski.
I had the agony of defeat. That's what I call it, the agony of defeat.
Yes, the old agony of defeat. Yep.
Yes, my daughter's taking my grandson out, who's 4 years old. He's been out skiing and what's the other one with the big one board?
Snowboarding.
Oh, the snowboarding.
Yeah.
It's really popular with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, he did that more than I did in my whole 60 years of life,
Yep.
But hey, she's doing it right. I mean, they go and doing lessons and everything, but we did what we did. Our days were a lot different, So.
Well, it's different time, different world.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things I really miss about that world, but you know what? The internet's pretty awesome. So
yes, it is.
The internet is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and you had a little part in that, which is kind of cool.
A little part, yeah. Admittedly, I was a small cog in a big wheel, but I am one of the people legitimately that helped. I wrote code that became part of the foundations of the internet. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, so
I was the first one to do computer-generated slides.
Wait a minute. We need a website for the radio show.
We do.
We do.
We start doing it ourselves, and then we get like
101 other things.
It goes to the wayside. Hi, Joan.
Sarasota? That's Florida.
Sarasota.
Oh.
Yeah. Hi from Sarasota. So, okay. I want to back up now. When you started, okay, and now you have all this training, you're going with the sessions and you're learning and everything. When did you decide that you want to actually become a healer for others?
Oh, that very first day with Terry. And here's the funny thing. I'll tell the truth to everybody. That people think, oh, you became a healer because you like to help people or you want to do God's work or this or that. That wasn't number one for me. Number one was simple. I said, oh my God, this is a job I could actually do. Because I had so much pain, so many physical limitations. Almost any job you could name was not an option. Right. People would say, can you, work at a grocery store, be a cashier? No, are you kidding me? I'd be on a stretcher by my first break.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had been looking for years. I had been through occupational therapy and retraining. They couldn't find anything for me.
Yeah.
Because I had such severe injuries and limitations. And then when I had the session with Terry, I said, you know what? I can do this. Talk to people, pull on their fingers, use mind power. Yes. And that was huge because I didn't think that would ever be possible. I didn't think I could ever come off disability. So it was that very first moment I said, oh God, I want to do this. And I looked at Terry, I said, I can do this. And I did. And admittedly, it took me longer than her, but I pulled it off. It was a lot of drama, but yeah. And, I'm so glad I did because looking back, had I continued in tech, it would have been great. I would have made a lot of money, but I would have been a giant miserable jerk, to tell the truth. If I hadn't been through all the pain, it opened up so much compassion within me. I remember sitting at my commencement address at MIT, getting my bachelor's degree. I remember walking across the stage, shaking the president's hand, and thinking, I'm set for life.
Wow.
Even in a bad recession, I'll be able to get a job now that I know how to program with a degree from MIT. What I didn't see coming was the health crisis. And then less than 5 years after that, I found myself in terrible pain on disability, being told I'd never work again. So there you go. And, it's a fascinating journey, isn't it?
It really is. And it all led to this moment right here for you to be with us.
Well, that's the only reason I did any of it. My astrologer told me, well, in 2023, you're going to be on a really, really good podcast. So I'm like, all right. Yes, sir.
Oh my God. I'm clipping these parts out of it. I'm clipping these parts and playing them.
Yeah.
No, but like one of the things I always say, and I know I'm blowing our own horn, is that most people that come onto our shows after the show goes, you guys had a different way of doing things. You're not like, reading all the questions and being in a box. And I said, no, we can't do it in a box. For me, and Gina's always sort of gone along with me because she kind of sort of has the trust. To me, this is a conversation we're having, getting to know each other, having a cup of coffee, just chit-chatting. And the people in the chat room are the people who are eavesdropping on our conversations, just getting to know a new friend. And that's the way we like things to be. We know that this show is going to help one person. Right now, you're helping two, but it's going to help one person. And that's the way we go about things. We know
that's exactly what Terry taught me. She said, hey, if you have a class and 3 people show up, you teach the hell out of that class for those 3 people. Because one of them could go on to change the world.
You're right.
You don't know won't.
That's
so. I've said that to some host. I'm like, hey, as long as we get one person that hears me today, that this is really right for, that does something with it and changes their life, I'm glad I came. And they're like, what? Yeah. One person? I'm like, yes,
I know
one
that.
person.
It's like, why?
I want to help millions, but if we do help that one,
it's all they're looking at is the dollars and the money, right?
Exactly.
Which admittedly, you have to have enough dollars to pay the bills or you go out of business. So it matters to some extent.
That's what he called it. That's what I call a day job.
But the way I see it is, once you have enough money, then you have enough money. Stop worrying about it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you guys want a little more of the story?
Well, Joan wants to know what the doctors said when they saw that you were healed.
It's funny. Great question, Joan. So do you guys want to know what my brilliant plan was to build my healing practice?
Yes.
I was going to build my healing practice based on referrals from all my doctors and therapists. Because I figured once they see I've experienced a genuine miracle, right? I remember walking into my physical therapist and she's like, Brent, where's your brace? I'm like, I'm not wearing it. Look. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? And I told her, and I told my orthopedist, there was probably a dozen people I was seeing. Can you guys guess in round numbers how many referrals I got from all those people? They had seen me experience a genuine miracle. Correct. It's the round number, 0.
Yeah, 0. Yeah, because they're like big pharma. Big pharma will never give you the cure because they want to keep you sick.
Of course.
The same with physical therapy and everything else. If they cure you, they're out of a job.
That's right. So
So
nobody was interested. And I couldn't believe it. That
yeah,
was quite
just
disillusioning for me.
yeah.
I'm like,
I got this thing.
nobody, not a single person showed any interest in this miracle that occurred. Why? They couldn't
Yeah,
profit
because
from it, right?
exactly, and they were half of them kind of sort of would sort of put it down to he was just faking not being well or
Yeah.
being in pain.
Oh, sure.
This is
Yeah.
not really true. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah,
See,
they had to give it to themselves.
yeah. So I get this thing, all right? But this thing called the Lynx procedure, all right? It's a new more experimental, newer kind of thing out on the web right now, right? To help solve my acid problem. It's like magnetic BBs that they want to put down on the bottom. Your throat has two sphincters, one on the top, one on the bottom, and the bottom
Mhm.
one is opening up and letting the acid come back up, and that's why I'm losing my voice. Well, he wants me, one, to see a voice specialist, and two, to have a scope again. But he said, well, probably looking more along the lines of something like this. But now you can do this, but there are complications that could happen. This might happen, that might happen. I'm like, are you not sure of yourself doing something like this? Or are you already covering your ass that if something goes wrong, you can say that I told you so?
Right.
And I'm just like, so that doesn't bode well for my, thinking that this is going to work for this, So I love the metaphysical field. So you know what? You're going to have to help me. So what do I have
All
to
right.
do for you
Well,
to help me?
Here's what I would do. I think for a lot of people, the fastest path to see change is to work one-on-one with a professional, right? So here's what I found. For most people, either have time and no money, or they have money and no time.
Yep.
Typically, if you're really lucky, you have both, and you're young and beautiful. But how often does that happen, right? I mean, aside from you guys, right?
I got the one of three.
Yeah, a lot of us are just unlucky we have neither. So if you have, private sessions are the fastest route to make a shift. The other route is to do the trainings in the groups, which you can do on a much smaller budget. It's just going to take longer. And here's what I would do.
So what about this?
Now,
Your
the
heal-a-thon.
heal-a-thon is for people that are more interested in the group route. That I'm here to talk, answer whatever questions you guys have. The heal-a-thon is an event I do live, generally 6, maybe 8 times a year. And
Okay.
I walk everyone through all the aspects of this work. So just so you know, we've just kind of scratched the surface so far with the lower level stuff. More of the metaphysics, traditional energy healing, law of attraction. There's whole other levels way past that are available.
Of course.
Now,
Of course.
the heal-a-thon is a great introduction because I'm actually going to do several interactive processes. I'll teach people how to check for blocks. We'll do some block clearing. One of the highlights is I bring people into the quantum field. And for many people, it turns on their ability to see energies and auras and past lives with open eyes. So the heal-a-thon is kind of, hey, you want to get a good introduction to this, experience it a little bit, learn more about it before you make a commitment of time and money, come to the heal-a-thon. That is exactly why I do it. It's totally free. Bring your friends. It's a good time for all.
Cool.
Once you're really serious, you're like, hey, Brent, I want to do this. Let's make some difference. I would either do private sessions or the group trainings or both, depending on where you want to go. And here's the anatomy of an issue. That the first thing I'll ask you is this: when was the first time that you noticed the problem with your voice, with your throat?
About 2.5 years ago.
About 2.5 years ago. Okay, so here's a funny thing, and the healers in the crowd have probably heard this before. That when you have an injury or an illness, it's generally the body trying to resolve an emotional trauma. So, for example, if you look at when you fell and had the skiing injury, almost certainly in the 12 to 18 months ahead of that, you had some big emotional thing, almost guaranteed. And it's probably related to, if it was your ankles, is that correct?
Yep.
It was probably related either to standing up for yourself or moving forward in life, because that's what the ankles do. And so when what happens is a healthy human is fully present to everything that happens. But we're not all born healthy. We're born dysfunctional, right? Nobody's perfect. So when we have an experience that we can't process for whatever reason, we form what we call trauma. Is essentially a charge of emotion that gets stuck in the body somewhere. And this is an important survival mechanism because the trauma could kill you. So nature is doing us a solid here. The trouble is when we form trauma, it's kind of like taking a loan from the mob. You'll get the money you need, but you're going to pay it back with a lot of interest.
Yeah,
and if you don't pay it off quickly, they're going to own you, and your life is done. And trauma's like that too. So what we have to do is go back and look and see, okay, in that year-ish ahead of when you first had the trouble with your voice, we want to look at what were the stressors that went on. Was there an emotional shock, a move, a job change, a death in the family? Was there a world event that really impacted you? Like, a lot of people had falls and injuries in the 6 months or so after 9/11. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Why? Many people were affected by it, didn't know what to do with it. And so when you can't feel it emotionally, your body forces you to feel it through an injury or an illness.
Right.
So then that's kind of a slow way of letting go of this charge of energy. The good news is, if we can find that charge of energy and release it, then you don't need to be sick or have pain or go through rehab. The body will go, oh, we don't need this anymore. Because, of course, Gina, you know that your body knows exactly how to heal this.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
But we just don't listen to our bodies.
Right. If I go intuitively and ask your throat, why are you doing this? Do you know what your throat tells me?
Because you won't shut up.
What do you mean? No, it'll say, what do you mean? This is the perfect thing. I'm just doing exactly what I'm told.
Right.
So that's a funny thing. The body always thinks it's doing exactly what you want it to. It sees it as, look at this awesome cancer I created. Isn't it perfect? And you're like, no, get rid of it. And the body's like, what do you mean? This is what you ordered, right? You kept telling me you wanted this. Look what I did. This was really hard, right? And you're like, no. So the goal is to go back. We'd look at those things. Then we would probably use muscle testing, which you've probably seen before if you've been around the New Age world for a while, right? That just gives us feedback. Are we on the right track?
Yep.
Are we actually finding blocks and traumas where we expected?
For people that don't know what muscle testing is, like we've kind of showed it before, with just
And for those coming to the Healathon, I'm going to walk you through it, give you a full tutorial, and teach you how to do it. So that's coming in the Healathon.
I'm going to be putting up all of his links right now because he's got a lot of them. All right. Yeah. So we have awakeningdynamics.com. That's the main website. awakeningdynamics.com/quiz. You can take a quiz. Okay.
That's your spiritual power quiz. We all have a hidden spiritual power.
Yes, we do.
I created the quiz just to help people identify what is yours, because most people don't know they have one. I didn't.
Right.
I'm a healer. That's my spiritual power.
Yeah.
But there's different ones. Some people are intuitives. There's a couple different ones. So that's fun. The Healathon is my group session to walk everyone through the work, because that's coming, I believe, April 20th.
Oh, cool.
That wasn't intentionally done on 420. We're not going to be, getting stoned or anything. That's just the timing based on the class. And I'm like,
now he tells me, okay, I'm not
bird on that day.
That being said, on a more serious note, I do think there's enormous healing potential within psychedelics. And that's something I'm actively working with right now.
Hey, go back with the Indians, yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you have
absolutely.
your YouTube channel?
Yep. And I have my YouTube channel, and that's a great resource for people to get started if you don't want to wait 2 weeks for the Healathon. I wouldn't, right? I remember when I had my first session with Terry, I think it was June or maybe the first week of July. And I'm like, Terry, when's your class? She's like, September. I'm like, Terry, I can't wait till September. She's like, well, we better go somewhere and learn it from someone else then. I'm like, no. I don't want to wait 4 months, right?
Right.
I don't want to wait 4 months, but anyhow, that's how I felt. So YouTube channel is a great way to get started. But short version, muscle testing, also known as applied kinesiology, it's the same thing. It was invented in the 60s by an American chiropractor. I forget his name. Maybe one of the audience remembers it. I have students that go Google everything 10 seconds after I say it, right? It's really
Yeah, Mama
convenient.
D usually does that.
Normally me.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a way of learning to bypass the rational mind to ask questions directly of your body's intelligence, what we call the innate or the cellular memory. And that's so important because big picture, a human is just like a computer. It's crazy how good that metaphor is. And so, is it a coincidence that God took one of the world's best software engineers and wrecked his life to make him be a healer? I don't think so, right? And here's how it goes. Your body is the hardware, your subconscious is the software. That's how we work.
Yep.
So we
That
got
makes
all
sense.
this code that has the intelligence that tells our body what to do. And so your body knows how to read its own code. Of course it does. That's why I said, Gina, with your throat, I guarantee your body knows how to heal this. It just, you've been giving instructions not to. And that's why we have to do the work. We want to find that disconnect. Your brain's going, let's heal. But the rest of you is going, no, we need to create this problem, right? For all these different emotional reasons. And so muscle testing was developed to allow us to find out very clearly, do I have or not have a certain belief in the subconscious? That's what it does. So as an example, anybody that's been around the law of attraction, I assume you guys have seen The Secret, right?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch it 7 times?
Did you watch
it 7 times? Yep. They say if you watch it 7 days in a row, you'll be a millionaire, guaranteed. Okay, so in case you guys didn't know, right?
Yeah. I saw it twice because I had to refresh my memory because we had Travis on.
Yeah.
And then we had I had with Tiffany. What's his name that did the Sweat Lodge?
Yeah. I stayed in the background.
Why can't I think
Awesome.
of his name?
And so basically it allows you, if we look at one of the common beliefs a lot of people hold, about 30% of the population, is the belief, I have a vow of poverty. Now, very few people have taken a vow of poverty in their current life. Maybe. I've met a couple. I have. I've had a few students. I've had 9,000 students or something in 20 years. I've had maybe 2 that had a vow of poverty they'd taken. For everyone else, it's genetic past life, right? Just garbage you got stuck with. And so how do you know if you're carrying a vow of poverty? The answer is you don't. So muscle testing will tell you. You line up your body, you ask it, it will tell you, yes, I hold this, or no, I do not. So that's all it does. Muscle testing on its own doesn't do any healing. It just tells you what's going on in the subconscious.
Right.
Yes.
And you can ask it, you can ask yourself, even doing the thing like this. All right.
Yep.
So
that's one of them.
To let, if it, comes through
Yes.
Things you want to know about your health, things you want to know about your relationship, your, your romantic partner or whatever. Is my romantic partner cheating on me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does it go through or does it hold steady? It's
I'll just want to, I'll give everyone just a little tip right now.
Okay.
Muscle testing is highly accurate if you stick to your own body and your own life. The accuracy plummets when you go off of that. So, for example,
I mean, if I'm asking myself, I have to ask myself instead of asking Gina working with somebody.
Wait, in other words, if I want to muscle test lottery numbers, you can do that. Your body will give you answers. You're just going to buy a ticket and lose $1. Right. Yeah. It's just not right. So that's what's crazy about the subconscious. Your body always has an opinion of what Bitcoin's going to do tomorrow or IBM stock. But if you stick to your own body, your own life, it will be accurate.
But your subconscious is actually telling you something.
Either
way.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Either way. So it's like, all right, so if I have distrust, if I have whatever, about my job or about my relationship or about things like that, if that thing is going to show like that, that means there's something off there. Either you got to talk about it or you know what I mean? Because that's your inner self.
For most people, you can get a huge amount of insight as to why your life has happened how it is. 1, through muscle testing, through asking your body, and 2, by learning to connect telepathically with your higher self.
Okay.
Between those two sources, you can really understand, why did this happen? Why did that not happen, right? Why did I have this car accident? Why did my marriage not work out? There's actually important reasons for everything. And it's just like code. That if you look at a computer, everything that happens on that computer is driven by code. It's the only way it works. So every single thing there is code. Now, a lot of it wasn't intentional, right? And the body is just like a computer. My video game Underlight, you can see the box that's sitting a little above my head right there. That's actually the box for Underlight from my game. It was over 100,000 lines of custom code across 3 platforms that ran in real time. That's really, really complex, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Our bodies are just the same. Every coder knows you make a tiny little adjustment to the code over here that should have nothing to do with anything, and all the stuff over here breaks.
Yeah.
So that's why our lives happen the way they do. It's just like code. You think this little thing won't be a big deal. Oh, I'll go on one more ski run with my friends. It'll be fine. And then boom, right?
Boom.
Life-altering injury, right?
Yeah.
So I would do the muscle testing.
My first husband breaking my collarbone by accident. We were fighting, but it was by accident. You know, it really was. And but I OD'd on pain pills and died. And actually died and come back. You know, I made myself come back, long story, you know. But since then, my abilities went from here to through the roof.
Oh, that's how my late mentor Carl got his abilities. He died and he came back. And he's like, I met God and learned about life and how it all works. And now I'm going to be a healer and a spiritual teacher instead of an engineer. Kind of like me. Does that sound a little familiar?
It does.
Yeah, my late mentor Carl, he was an engineer. He was at 27 years old. Ironic, that was the same age I had my huge flame out. He was a vice president of Siemens Engineering with 2,000 people working for him.
Oh,
and he had this spiritual awakening and went into work and quit. He put all his stuff in the back of his car, drove from New York to San Francisco, rented an apartment, and bought a book on meditation and became a healer and an energy worker. And this was, I think, 1973, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Way ahead of when it was fashionable, right?
Well, actually, a lot of people quit and went to go join the ashrams a lot, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, and those are the poverty people.
Yeah. One thing I think you guys, your audience, would enjoy is I want to talk a little about the generations of consciousness.
Okay.
Because one of the troubles with the New Age world is there is a lot of cool stuff out there. There is. There's also a lot of idiots and people selling boxes of hot air to make money.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to get oriented and understand what's what. And so I came up with the model of the 3 generations of consciousness to help people understand what's out there and kind of what's going to be the best fit for them. Because it's not easy. And here's how it goes. It's actually pretty easy. That the first generation is the secret. It's positive thinking. It's Think and Grow Rich, right? It's all those things we've seen for over 100 years. Napoleon Hill all the way through Rhonda Burns, right? Focus on the positive, enroll supportive people, mantras, vision boards, blah, 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 right? So here's what they found. Did you know there was a university in Canada? I wish I still had the white paper. I read this like 10 years ago. They did a formal scientific study on the law of attraction.
Tony Robbins.
Their result was this. Less than 1% of people that use the typical law of attraction stuff from The Secret feel they got any results at all.
Yeah.
So that's bad, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you went to drive your car and it only worked 1% of the time.
Yeah.
I'd get a new car. I don't know about you, right? Imagine.
Really long time ago. I mean, I think like 6 years ago, I had this guy on the show, and he was all about that, all right? But he actually was saying, I'm going to go write a check for $25,000. I don't have it in there, but I know when they go to cash that check, it will be covered. And I was like,
yep. And I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying it's difficult for most people, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we say. That I remember I went to T. Harv Eker's Secrets of the Millionaire's Mind. You guys remember that really popular
No.
about 20 years ago. It was a New York Times bestseller. Yeah, he was a little ahead of The Secret. And
Okay.
there was 2,000 people there at this weekend seminar.
Really?
And you think about it, you go, if there's 2,000 people jumping around like idiots shouting out that they're millionaires, on average, 20 of them will have a breakthrough. So it happens. It's just rare.
Is there all right, you have a lot of math in this book. Now, is there a formula for that type of a thing?
I'll come back to that in a second. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll cover that next. So that's the first gen. It's not wrong. It's just for most people, it doesn't work very well. It's not enough.
Yeah.
Just not enough. For some people that have really mastered it, it can be great. And so then we get into the second generation. That's where things start to get interesting. Here's the difference. The first generation, we're only engaging the conscious mind. It's thoughts, words, writing, and that's good. But again, isn't enough for most people.
Right.
It would be like if I wanted to go to Japan, a rowboat wouldn't be enough.
No.
I'm not that strong, right? I can't paddle to Japan overnight. No, I need an airplane. So the second generation, here's the distinction. With the second generation technologies, we start finding specific ways to directly work the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say hypnosis is one of the first, kind of the granddad of the second generation. NLP, Psych-K, Ewan method, healing code, emotion code. There's dozens, if not hundreds of modalities that work on the basic idea that we have the energy inside of us in the subconscious. And if we can learn to clear the blockages and open the flow, we can create positive change in our life. So a hypnotist, a lot of them specialize in helping people to quit smoking. Why? They go into the subconscious. That's why it works.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I was like 18. I think I was going. I was such a smoker. It was like ridiculous, right? No, I was more than that. It might have been right before I was 20. But he tricked me into being hypnotized, like playing games. Like all of a sudden your hands floating up with a balloon and things like that. And then all of a sudden it's like you're really under. And he does this thing about the smoking, and it did work.
Yeah. So with the second gen, we start to see medical miracles. That's the thing. And it's a lot more than 1%. Depending on the person, the technique, the background, anywhere from 2-3%, maybe to 20-30% if you're really good. And this is why I can legitimately say I'm at about 1,970 miracles right now. I keep count. I'm getting close to 2,000. It's taken me 20 years, over 20 years.
Well, congratulations.
But, when I say miracles, I'm not talking about, I like the energy. When I say medical miracle, I'm meaning things that show up on MRI scans and x-rays and confuse doctors. Where like my elbow instantly healed, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
And you start to see that when you start to engage the subconscious. So with the second gen, it's more powerful. We see medical miracles and our success rate is higher. But it's still at best maybe 20-30%. At least I don't know of anybody doing this work that can legitimately claim higher than that. And there's some things it's not good at. It's not good at getting you back into your body if you're a head case. Second gen cannot do it. Any more so than the first gen can clear a subconscious block. It just can't do it. It also is not very effective for money. I'll put that out there. Most of these money-making programs are garbage. They do not work. It would be, again, like selling someone a rowboat to go from California to Japan. In theory, it could work, but who can pull that off, right?
Right.
I'd save your money. Save your money for a plane ticket, right? So I love the second gen techs. I use them. I teach them. They're really powerful, especially for physical and emotional healing. That's what we call digging. And that's what I learned from Terry. That's how we crawl into the subconscious to find the core and resolve the issue, right? And for many people, that's where I start.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like
and for most people, we'll start you with the second gen, right?
Investigation.
Yep. And so here's what happened to me. After I had worked with Terry, it took me about 3 years, but my life really came together. I had less pain. I came off disability. I was making money. I had paid down a lot of my credit card debt. I had gotten divorced and started dating again. So it was good. But then my whole life fell apart again. I had another dark night of the soul. And I suffered the worst heartbreak of my life. And I got involved in an investment fraud and ended up almost $1 million in debt.
Oh, no. Damn.
I had my, not only had the guy stolen all my money.
Go again. It's
he
like
also,
the same thing all over again.
He also stole my identity and took out loans in my name. And so I was told, I talked to lawyers, and I'm on the FBI official victims list of financial crimes and all this stuff, right? And so long story short, I went bankrupt, and I came a razor's edge from ending up homeless and hungry. No joke. It was crazy incidences. And so it was literally the day after I declared bankruptcy that I met my late mentor, Carl. That's no exaggeration. And that was probably the day I was closest to suicide in my whole life. And I spent a lot of my life staring over that abyss. I really have. And Carl had me rollerblade by the beach, and it made no sense. And he videotaped me. And then we sat in his truck, and he watched the video of me rollerblading and just ripped me a new one with all this criticism. And then he sent me home. And I remember I called my life coach and dating coach, Brian, who had referred me to him, because I had done 100 hours with Brian. And he was like, Brent, you're too screwed up for me. I'm going to kick you up the chain to the master, right? So that's why I met Carl. And I called Brian and chewed his ass. I'm like, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? I went bankrupt yesterday. I literally spent my last $500 to pay some crazy old guy to videotape me rollerblading. What is wrong with you, dude? Right? And if Brian had been there, I might have punched him. Yeah, I thought you were my friend. Exactly. And he said, Brent, I get it. I felt the same way. He goes, let me offer you this. Give it 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, if you don't feel you got anything out of it, I'm going to give you double that amount in free sessions with $1,000 of free sessions. I was like, all right. Didn't take 3 weeks, took 3 days.
Okay.
Within 3 days, I had made over $50,000 and sold out my next class. And I had my schedule was completely booked for over a month. That had never happened before. And I called Brian.
Okay,
I'm
we
like,
need to do this.
Dude, I'm
Guess
sorry.
what?
You were right. Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
And I will always be grateful. That's one of the best things anyone's ever done. And so Carl introduced me to the third generation. And the third generation, we're not using muscle testing. We're not flipping specific beliefs or any of that. It's direct embodiment with awakening. It's done through movement and entrainment of the mind. And it's kind of hard to talk about because it doesn't fit the mold, right? It doesn't look like The Secret. It doesn't look like NLP. It doesn't look like anything.
This is more like
but
5D
this is
4D and 5D living.
This was the missing piece for me. It's the closest thing to 100% you'll find. That most people, when they get serious about the third gen, what we call the Carl work or the quantum field, most people will make between 3 to 10 times more money within a few years. Other people realize they already had plenty of money and just stopped worrying about it. And so it really works for making money. It helps for eliminating suffering. Because one of the things was, even after the miracle with Terry, even though I had less pain, I was off disability, I was dating, right? My life was moving forward. I was still suffering. I was still living in my head.
Physically? Okay.
More mentally, but both.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got to
you have the resentments too of what happened, and then you have
sure, of course.
Is this end mode, and then
Yep. And it was Carl that really introduced me to what we call non-duality or awakening, which is a very deep understanding of what is life and God and consciousness and how does it all work. And I won't go too deep down that rat hole because it's a really advanced stuff.
That's another whole show.
If we're talking like, it's another whole show. We're talking like top of Mount Everest kind of level, right?
Right.
But it does that. It gets you into your body. It's very visceral. It's physical, right? And so that with the awakening awakening, that kind of was the whole deal. That's when my life really started to click. So it took a couple of years. It wasn't all overnight, but I was able to make about 3 times more money than I ever had before. I finally got over my divorce and all the heartbreaks and found my seemingly permanent partner, my second wife, mother of my son. And we started a family. And, it somehow, it took me a long time, but I reclaimed kind of a normal life by the end. But the Kara work, the quantum field, the advanced stuff is mind blowing. Again, probably great for the next show, but that's what I would go for people that are suffering a lot in their mind. If you're in your head thinking too much, struggling, if you're talented and you're hardworking, but you're never getting ahead, that's why. There's no life in your body. You squeezed it out. And the movement with the quantum field meditations is the only thing I found that works. And that's the 3rd gen. And basically pretty simple. I don't teach much 1st gen. You can all watch The Secret, right? Done. I teach a highly technically advanced version of 2nd gen, as well as the 3rd gen. That I like emotion code and, and Psyche and all that, but they're kind of like a Model T next to a Porsche 911 Turbo.
Yeah.
So same basic, right? Same basic machine. One is just far more advanced than the other. And for everyone, the answer is there somewhere.
Religion. People are like, this group believes in this. This is all you need. That group believes in this, and that's all you need. And then you have the overachievers that want more, that want to know more, that they know that there's
absolutely
more. But now you're bringing quantum physics into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Please.
Okay, so with all this work that you do with people, how many their brain, their mind gets in the way of the success that they know they can do, but they just like have so much doubt and
I would say conscious doubt, not as big of a deal.
Okay.
I would say it's good to be an open-minded skeptic. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Please don't believe anything just because someone says it, even me.
Right.
Anything I say, I encourage you, wrap it in your own experience and look and see if you can find the truth of it. If you can't, ignore it. Find someone else that you can connect to and find their truth, right? So don't believe anything I or anyone says just because they say it. But at the same time, we have to be open-minded.
Yeah.
Just because you think something can't work or sounds silly doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Just means you think it's silly or can't work, right?
Right.
That's your problem.
Well, obviously you don't think it all. You tried it all. You did everything. You
Been there, done that, and you found what works.
Everything that failed, and then you found the one. Woof, found it. Stop looking. Here it is. Right, and then that starts your path. Right, and that is fantastic. And you said a few things that really made my mind start working on for me myself, for my healing, and what is the reasoning and what's the blockages and what happened at that point when this started. And I get it, and I'm already back there, and I'm already thinking about it. I'm already like, okay, what it reminds me of, and you mentioned about hypnosis, is like Chris Lee, like the things that he does with hypnosis and bringing people to their past lives, for fears, phobias, and health issues today that could be from your ancestors. You know what I mean? So he brings you back. And and I got rid of all the floaties in my eye by doing that. It was like just insane, right? And things like that. It's like people don't get it, and then it doesn't click until something actually physically happens for them, like you and your arm, right?
Right.
There's your proof. We need the proof. Now, speaking of proof, is in formulas. If you're scientific, math doesn't lie unless you have a couple of your theories in here that you say that it does. And I'm like, really? Wait, because I'm always saying math doesn't lie. Math's not wrong. Math can't, and you have the
math never lies, but the people that do math lie. That's the problem. because they're people, right?
Yeah. But scientific theories in mathematics I think are a little different, because scientists are always looking for an improvement on something, or something to make it happen again and again and again, right? That's your whole thing.
Reproducible. Exactly. Yes.
So you have come up with that for this?
I think so. Yeah. But we just, again, I'm here to tell the truth. The truth is there a formula for miracles? Yes. But we don't get to pick the miracles. They pick us. So there is no way to force God to give you a specific miracle of a specific time in a specific way to this person on this date. I don't know how to do that. What I do know how to do is show you processes to facilitate miracles.
Okay.
So imagine that you wanted to get more dates, but you had terrible body odor and you had crazy Einstein hair. Well then, that's not going to guarantee you never going to get dates, but it makes it harder, right? So you take care of yourself. You wear nice clothes. You clean up. You put on a good face. You go out and meet people. Those things facilitate dating and falling in love, don't they? None of them is ever a guarantee. Hey, if you go to this bar on Saturday night, you're going to meet your soulmate. Doesn't work that way, right? But you go out with enough people, enough times, you will find love.
Mm-hmm.
And miracles are no different. Yep.
When I met Bob,
we learn to facilitate.
I wasn't looking. We were just friends when we started out talking.
It helps.
And,
that's attachment, right?
Yeah.
When you're not attached to something, it's much easier to manifest it. It's really that simple. So a lot of.
But I'm a widow, and my husband passed away, and I was like, I don't want to do this again. And thank God I did. And now, and the same thing, my dog died. I'm like, I'm not getting another dog. And now I got an old rescue dog that's like, love of my life.
Well, that's why they say if you want to make God laugh, just tell him your plans. It's really pretty easy.
That's what my problem is. Gotcha.
Yep. Now, that being said, it's great to have plans. The ego is not the enemy. It's not. I think a lot of spiritual teachers really misdo that. The ego is not your enemy. It's just, I would say, it's kind of like with my family. From the time my son was 3 years old, he wanted to drive the family car. Daddy, can I drive today? And I would say, no, son. It's not that I don't love you. You're not a bad kid. But I can't trust you to pilot a 4,000-pound vehicle on public roads. Not to mention how illegal it is, right?
Yeah, it's not when we were back in the day when we could sit on our fathers and just they would keep it right. That way anymore.
So really, the ego is like your child that really wants to drive the family car. That's nice, but you got to say no. They're not ready. So our ego is not the enemy. It's not bad. Please don't destroy it or kill it. Just don't let it drive.
Yeah, somebody once said to me something that sort of stuck out. Everybody has an ego. It just don't live the egotistical lifestyle.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, it makes a lot of sense. Not like I have a big ego, but
Yeah. So it is funny. I heard a band for the first time last weekend called Massive Ego. Isn't that a cool name for a band?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
No, I hate to do this, but we're 9:30.
Oh.
So
Athena's video.
We'll play Athena's video. When we come back, I would like to hear about the math part of this.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I want to ask you about the billiard ball thing. All right, so we'll play Athena's video. This is what she came up with, where what she thought was a good thing is turquoise for this.
And I didn't know.
Yep. And here she is.
Hello, loves. I am Athena Barry, Reiki Master and author of award-winning book, Raise Your Vibes, and my new Oracle deck, Raise Your Vibes, Crystal Cards, and of course, creator of CrystalReikiHealer.com. And I am so grateful to be here once again for another week on the Fox Den Show with our Crystal of the Week segment. So let's dive in. For this week's show, I really felt called to the energy of turquoise. This beautiful crystal is fantastic for communication, protection, self-acceptance, and spiritual wisdom. This crystal activates our throat chakra and reminds us that even the darker parts of ourselves and our past are an important part of who we are today. With its ancient wisdom of our ancestors, this stone helps us to honor ourselves and realize all experiences in this life are a part of the path we choose, leading us step by step towards enlightenment. It protects us from ill-meant words and judgment, both from ourselves and from others. Turquoise is number 38 in my new Oracle deck, Raise Your Vibes crystal cards, and it supports guidance for self-acceptance, balancing that throat chakra, and helps us to release any feelings of regret about a situation so we can practice self-acceptance and self-forgiveness. Ways you can use this crystal. You'll see this one very often worn as jewelry, and being native to here in the US, it was often used by many Native American tribes for protection, spiritual enlightenment, and communication. I use this crystal often in my crystal grids, right, to support my Reiki clients and helping them to balance their throat chakra and for spiritual protection. You can also place one under your pillow in the evening, getting those hours of alignment with the crystal energy. Or as I do, tucked into my bra, or a pocket is wonderful as well. And it's great to hold in your hands or next to you when you meditate. Likewise, you can also pop this one in your crystal elixirs, totally safe for that as well. This is a wonderful crystal to place near the entrance of your home. So this ensures that all who walk through the door are greeted with compassion, including yourself, and acceptance, allowing peaceful and positive energy to flow. You can also connect with this crystal with an ASMR Reiki, crystal Reiki session, free on my own YouTube channel, Crystal Reiki Healer. And of course, I love to leave you with a wonderful affirmation to help you connect with your crystal's energy. And for turquoise, it is, I am protected and heard with clarity as I express my truth from a place of love. And that wraps up our Crystal of the Week segment for turquoise. Thank you, ladies, so much for having me join you. I hope this has brought some value to your show. Many blessings. Mwah.
Okay, let me unmute us all. We have to unmute. So once again, she picked a perfect crystal for this show. So that is Athena, and we usually play her at 9 o'clock. So running a little late. It's because I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, but it's a good topic. The show is good. It's, when you forget about the time, when you're not paying attention to the time, it's because the show is going off slow, amazingly perfect. So it's like,
yes. I do hope you're enjoying yourself, Brent. Mama D wants to know about the math. I want to know about the math. I was like, I don't know if I can understand this book. I want you to explain this thing with the pool balls here and the billiard balls.
Sure.
Now, I'm a pool player, right? I am a definite pool player. It's a shark.
So first, let me give everyone a big picture on the 3 books. It's a 3-book series.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The 3rd book has been released, but I haven't done any promotion for it yet. And the first book,
we need 3.
Yep. The first book is really kind of my story about how I got into this and all the crazy things that happened. So it's go to the human side. The second book is specifically focused on the science of miracles and explaining with just a little bit of math and physics how miracles happen and how we can facilitate them in our lives. The third book is really more of a spiritual play on, now that we understand the science, how do we use this to make powerful changes in our life? So that's kind of the three books. And the one of the things we talk about is, in order to understand the science of miracles, this is something I cover in a lot of depth in my live trainings. But here's the short version. That I'm going to go out on a limb and use the term quantum physics. And the reason I say out on a limb is this new age industry is full of people that throw around their word quantum, don't have the foggiest idea what it means. I think it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Right? They think, oh, it's all based on quantum physics, and they wave their hands and that's supposed to explain it. No. That quantum physics, no, it's not how it is, right? Quantum physics was new theories of the universe developed in the early 20th century because we were getting newer experimental data with microscopes and things that didn't fit the old theories. It came hand in hand with relativity. And so, big picture, and those that are into popular science know this, relativity from Einstein explains the big side of the universe: stars, planets, galaxies, right? Quantum physics describes the small side: atoms, subatomic particles. So they're really, really small stuff.
Big picture of
And
like
so,
time wormholes, time travel.
And the piece that you're referencing with the billiard balls, it goes something like this. It has to do with what's called the uncertainty principle. It was discovered by Werner Heisenberg, published in 1927. And basically what he says in uncertainty is that you have a choice. When you have a particle, you can either measure its location and know exactly where it's at, or you can measure its velocity and see where it's going. You can't know both.
See, I don't
you have to choose.
I don't
well,
get.
I'm going to explain that. That's where we're going there, right? And so that's essentially the basis of it. And I'll spare you guys the math and the equations for now, right? And you go, but Brent, that doesn't make any sense, right? You're sitting right now in your chair in your office in Las Vegas. We know exactly where you are and exactly where you're going. Basically, I'm moving with zero velocity relative to my chair, right? I'm only moving because I'm on the Earth that's spinning, going around the sun, which is going around the galaxy, blah, 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 right? And so you go, that doesn't make sense. In fact, if we look at like astronomy or astrology software, you can go get software for like $50 that you punch in any date and time. It will tell you exactly where the planets were or will be at that time. And you go, so you're wrong, Brent. There is no uncertainty. I go, whoa, wait a second. Uncertainty only applies at the subatomic scale. I don't know if you guys remember the inner space ride at Disneyland they had in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, where you started and you got smaller and smaller, right? That's quantum physics. So here's how I explained it in the book. I talk about playing pool, right? Billiards table. So you go down to Dave & Buster's or your favorite bar, right? And you're going to play pool. But all you know is there's a cue ball that's somewhere on the pool table. You don't know where. Why? The room is completely dark. So what are you going to do? Well, you can turn on a flashlight, right? You can turn on the flashlight to go, oh, there's the cue ball. It's over in the left corner, right? And here's the thing. If you have a regular flashlight pointed at a regular cue ball on a regular pool table, turning on the light does not cause the ball to move, does it?
No.
No. Why is that? Well, the amount of energy coming off the flashlight is too small relative to the mass of the ball. Way too small, not even close, right? I could sit there with 100 flashlights and the ball still doesn't move.
Right.
And so that's how things work in our what's called macroscopic reality. Regular size things, right? People, cars, doors, buildings, things we can interact with, right? But now we take that favorite bar and shrink it down to the size of an electron, a subatomic particle. And so we go in to the tiny bar, right, with a tiny pool table that has a tiny cue ball somewhere on it. But again, it's dark. So what do? I pull out my tiny flashlight and I turn it on. But here's what happens. As soon as the light from the flashlight hits that tiny billiard ball, that tiny cue ball. The amount of energy in just one photon of light is enough to move it massively. So the instant I shine a light on it, it reflects back and I see where it was.
Okay,
But
so
that same light
that's what you
has
can't.
put so much energy into the system that we don't know where it is a moment later. That's
Okay.
the best
Right, and
explanation I
then
can give for
something
why
else-
uncertainty.
And something else can hit it in motion, so
Yep.
you can't
And
tell. where
here's
it's
the thing, though. It's not like the ball is going to be in another galaxy. It's governed by, in math, what you call a probability function. And it's pretty simple. Let's say there's a 90% chance the ball's somewhere on the pool table, right? There's a 9% chance that the ball ran off the edge of the table and rolled across the room. Might happen, right? There's a 0.9% chance that it rolled off the table, out of the room, out the door, onto the street. There's a 0.09% chance it went off the table, across the room, out the door, down the street, and onto the freeway. There's a 0.009% chance that all that happened and it went 100 miles on the freeway, right?
Damn.
So any place you can pick in the universe, there is a small but finite probability the ball went there.
Right.
That's called a probability function. And so on the macroscopic level, you and me are composed of what? 100 trillion cells, each of which is composed of billions of trillions of atoms and subatomic particles, right? So the chance that one of those particles jumps to another room, that can happen. But if one of your atoms jumped into the other room, you wouldn't even notice.
Right.
Right? It'd be like you had $400 trillion in a room and someone came and took out $1. How would you know? You couldn't tell the difference, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's where miracles come from. That if you understand how the physics work, there is some possibility at every moment that your throat will spontaneously just heal itself and never give you a problem again.
Yeah.
The question is why doesn't
when
it?
I do focus, like I can, do this healing stuff on other people. If I do try to focus and do it on myself, but again, then life gets in the way, and that's when it acts all up.
And that's, again, stress is it. And just so you know, I'd say any serious issue, I always work with another person. I mean, I have a lot of reason to think I'm one of the best healers in the world. That's controversial, of course, right? I could talk about resume accomplishments, things I've done, said, seen, right? Not going to go there. I think I'm really good, right? Unless it's minor.
And you are the best.
Yeah. Any serious issue, I either do a trade with one of my students or pay a professional, because it's nearly impossible to be objective about your own stuff. Yes. I don't care how enlightened you think you are, right? We all got mommy and daddy stuff. We're all still hurting from our first teenage heartbreak, blah, 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 right? But it's really interesting that this is why I say when you understand the math and physics, you can learn how to facilitate miracles. There's never a guarantee. Never a guarantee, because they pick us. It's like falling in love. I would love if someone has a foolproof method to make either yourself or someone else either fall in or out of love. Wouldn't that make life easy, right?
Poison.
Exactly. Find someone that's a really good compatible match. You drink your love potion, boom, done, right?
Yeah.
Or, gee, I'm crazy in love with this woman. She has no interest in me. Drink my get over it potion and I'm done. That'd be great, right? It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah,
miracles are the same. We can facilitate them, and if you do, you'll see a lot of miracles.
Right.
That when I was younger, I used to think that miracles only happened to really special people, that like were God's second cousin or something, right? And it seemed all those people lived thousands of years ago.
Yep.
You don't hear a lot of it. What I learned was God didn't stop doing miracles 2,000 years ago. We just stopped writing about it.
Exactly.
God's talking to everyone all the time. Just listen, right?
The internet is our friend and our foe, because our saints and things performing miracles, and they put it online, and people are going to automatically no, and try to dissuade our belief in miracles, because they're not happy.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
by their laws
Exactly.
or rules,
Right.
or you know, they think it's impossibility, so it can't be.
That's right.
So
It's pretty crazy how it works, huh?
yeah, you know, I mean, if we can just get everybody on the bandwagon, the world would be a great place.
It'd be nice. I'm doing my best. You know, I'm doing my best.
Well,
But
we'll
you
try
know,
to help you.
it is like herding cats. That's the trouble. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, and there's a reason there's no blockbuster for healers, because healers is like herding cats. Good luck with that, right? You cannot. You can try to commoditize this, but it doesn't work very well, right?
Yeah.
So it's just there is this inherent uncertainty, and
Yeah.
that's why we learn to surrender. That's why we let go. That's why we, let go and let God, surrender to a higher power, however you want to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big thing. And trusting your gut and your instincts and your higher, you know, between your
I'll
higher
just offer to everyone listening,
guides and everything
if
else.
if you're struggling to trust the divine, almost always it's because you have a misunderstood idea of what it is and how it works. And
Yeah.
that's the point of the advanced work of the awakening process, is to give you the knowledge and understand. You go, oh, now that I see how it works, it really does make sense to let go. Because as long as we think life, that we're a bunch of separate beings taking actions to compete for scarce resources, if you think that's your life, you're going to have a miserable slog of it. That's not what's actually happening. That's what everyone thinks, not the truth, people. The truth is there's a plan to it. And if you only think there's your ego in your way and other people that thwart that, I mean, you might have some success in life, but you're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's really awakening is understanding enough about God and life and consciousness that you go, oh, it makes sense. The best thing for me to do to make money, to heal my body, to find love is often to let go.
Yep.
And it's that simple.
You can only put so much work into something. Eventually,
right.
all the work that you've done for it to be able to pay off, you have to just let,
And it's funny, I learned that at MIT.
Yeah.
I knew this at
Thanks,
MIT. That
I
was
knew it.
part of how I got straight A's. Because
You know,
Chrissy just purchased your books.
thank you,
awesome.
Chrissy. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
that one.
I appreciate it.
Because I remember when I was an undergrad at MIT, I'd occasionally have a problem set or a lab or something I just couldn't do.
Yeah.
And sitting banging your head against the wall doesn't work. What I found was you let it go and you do something else and the answer always comes.
Yeah.
It's usually for me when I was in college. Yep. It's either in the shower, in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, or at the gym working out. Those seem to be the three most common. Why? You're totally focused elsewhere.
Yeah.
And your
For me, it's doing
subconscious,
dishes.
there you go. Something more mundane where you're not thinking about your problem, that opens the intuition and boom, there's your answer.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. Yep.
Oh, yes.
Yep. You know, I had a friend of mine worked at MIT, so she didn't go to school there. She worked there. So we went to see her because I went to see another one. We all went to school together, and we went to visit her, and we got to see the robot that they have there now, which is amazing. Can do everything.
It's a cool place.
Yeah,
Harvard gets all the press, but I think MIT is a much more interesting place to go. But that's just me. I'm
hell
all
yeah.
biased.
Hell
just
yeah.
a tad,
I mean, Harvard's more for the lawyers. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're just out to make the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
MIT is more about changing the world.
Yep. If you really want to create something real that makes a difference, it's a great choice.
Yeah.
Like that.
Just be warned, they'll stick you so deep into your head, you're going to need a master healer to get out.
There you go. So anybody out there listening, trying to figure out where to go, MIT.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm proud. My son wants to go to MIT, so I'm cool with that. I'm like, I can.
There we go.
Now I have to, because we are running out of time here quickly.
Yeah.
And I have to bring up your 5D secret, achieving a conscious theta brainwave. All right, now that's where I work. That's the paranormal realm.
Yep.
So can you kind of get into that a little bit, if you don't mind?
Sure. So there are some physiological aspects to this work that we can actually measure with biofeedback devices. Brainwave is one of them. And
Yeah.
so, short version, all the cool stuff happens in a theta wave. That's
Yes.
the one you're most interested in. Beta, kind of boring.
100%. I
Alpha,
saw that. I was like, hey, this is my realm.
Alpha, you're in the right direction. Alpha is great for creativity, relaxation, super learning, meditation. But theta is where the heavy lifting gets done. That's where miracles occur. But a lot of people don't realize there's more to it than just theta. Another piece that we can actually measure with an EEG is brain synchronization. And so a theta wave alone is enough to shift a subconscious block, even to create a healing. But if you want the big stuff, like life-changing healings, making tons of money, you need to not only get to theta, you also have to synchronize your brain. That the left and right hemispheres must be in sync. And fascinating thing, almost all discomfort and pain comes from asynchrony in the brain. That if you can synchronize your brain, most of your pain will vanish.
Right.
And this is the
subconscious and your subconscious.
That's right. So the first thing most people learn is how to get to theta. I can teach you that in about 3 hours. How to get to theta, do healings, access your intuition. That's pretty easy. It takes practice. In the advanced trainings, I show you how to then synchronize your hemispheres and connect into what we call the quantum field. That's where you start to see auras and past lives. And this is all with your open eyes. This is not imagined, right? I know there's a lot of people that have done shamanic work. Oh, you imagine you're a bird. No, not that. You're actually seeing it, right? Okay. One of the more fun things I did with my late mentor on our first retreat, he came to my hotel room at midnight. I was just falling asleep, woke my ass up. He's like, Brent, we're going for a walk. I'm like, yes, sir. I'm of the generation, we respected and we're a little afraid of our parents and teachers, right? Oh, yeah. Kids today have no respect. But I was just like, yes, sir, go for a walk at midnight. Yes. So I got my clothes on. And we go out and he goes, we're going to go on this path. It's going to be dark. I want you to tune into the quantum field and follow my energy. And I'm there. I felt like when, Obi-Wan told Luke Skywalker to close his eyes in Star Wars, right? It's like, if I close my eyes, how the hell am I going to do anything, right? But it was the craziest thing. I got locked into the quantum field and I could see him. He looked like a white mist. And I followed him. We walked for about half a mile, took about 15 minutes-ish. There was one point where he said, Brent, stop, take 3 steps back, turn to your right 90 degrees. Okay, follow me. And I did it. And we came out the other side down by the beach. And I was like, well, that was cool. Why did you tell me to do blah, blah, blah? And Carl goes, oh, you were about to walk off the cliff. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's also the night I learned everything has an aura. Mailboxes, cars, houses, objects have auras too, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, and you'll see it every once in a while and be like, well, what's that? But Joan has a great question. Is there anything you would suggest to listen to while you're sleeping at night?
I'd be a little careful with that. I would not want to be using binaural beats or something that's going to affect your brainwaves when you're sleeping. I think that could mess things up. Keep that for when you're awake. If you're going to listen to things when you're sleeping, just be careful. Because when you're asleep, your subconscious is wide open. Okay. So there's potential for a lot of good if you can feed positive messages that are good for you. There's also potential for harm. Be careful if you fall asleep in front of the TV. Because, I've had times I'm more energy sensitive than I used to be. Where I fell asleep watching some documentary about ancient aliens on the History Channel. But I wake up, 2 hours later, it's 3 a.m. I wake up and there's something about a serial killer and I'm full of stress and fear, right? So be careful. Yeah. I would say whatever you need, and I wouldn't do it all night. I'd keep it for the first hour or two. Okay. Because that's when you're in the deepest sleep.
Put it on a timer.
Yeah, basically when we go to sleep, the soul leaves the body, travels through the ethereal plane into the astral plane to do its nighttime thing. And then when we come back, dreams are the residue that gets stuck to the soul as it's traveling back. Yeah. So you don't want to mess. I'd say keep it the first 2 hours, but anything that's supportive, nourishing, that balances you. But again, don't do any binaurals or anything that modifies your physiology. because
Okay.
again, you don't want to do that when you're asleep. Your body needs the flexibility to do whatever it needs when it's asleep.
Okay.
So that's what I would do.
Is there? I like when I going to sleep. I like to listen to rain. I have this thing
Yep.
about rain.
Yep.
And
Do you know why?
it's like
I can tell you
just-
why.
Go, please.
When you hear rain, like the rain on the rooftop, it puts
Right.
you into a theta state. It's that simple. It entrains you to a theta brainwave. And the
Well-
theta state is where we go when we're asleep and dreaming. That's why many people love to fall asleep to the sound of rain. Fascinating, huh?
Mhm.
Yep.
She's very
Yes,
enlightened. I've been binge watching Dark Shadows. So that is what I've been falling asleep to.
He
And I
does
wake
not look happy with that one.
and it's still on. It's like half-hour episodes, and it
Sure.
just like continue. I mean, but I have been binging this for the past 2 months. I'm like right at the last season.
Well, you might want to do a little digging in your subconscious. Just make sure there's no unwanted visitors that stuck around. Because when you fall asleep, your subconscious is wide open. Surgeons know this. There have been studies that shown the mood and energy in the operating room and what they talk about affects the surgery.
Yeah,
It really does.
the shows that we watch and all this stuff. I'm like thinking to myself, I wonder if there are
It's called Engram banks or unconscious memories. It's a real thing.
Yeah,
For sure.
so that's
Okay,
scary.
if somebody has to go to sleep, has to have a constant noise going on in the background, TV going, and won't say who. Is there anything in, like, I know you said why I would like to listen to rain in regards to that?
Yeah.
Somebody I know.
It's not a bad thing. Again, once you're asleep, ideally you'd want to stop it.
Because the moment you turn it off, she wakes up.
It wakes up, yeah. I would say you could work with that. That's subconscious stuff, for sure.
There you go. Jay.
Yeah.
You heard him?
My
You
brain
heard
never shuts up. I need to have something while I'm sleeping, or I won't. If
Yeah.
there's nothing on at all, I can't sleep to music because I will be singing it and I'll never go to sleep. I can't really put on something that I really truly want to just, stay up and it's got all the full attention on the television to watch, but I need that. Otherwise, I'm solving the world's problems. I'll be coming in here and doing work. Like I got this to make, I got boxes to make. We're doing Penhurst Paracon. I should be doing paperwork for that. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And that's what happens to me when I go to bed. So
it's too much head. Yep.
If I have that mundane something blah on in the background, I can sleep.
Yeah.
I
think
vampires,
falling asleep,
werewolves, and
not a big deal. I would just, use the sleep timers to turn off the TV when you don't need it anymore. Because you don't know what's going into your subconscious when you're asleep. That's what I'd be concerned of, right?
Right.
Whatever you're hearing can go straight in there. That's all.
Yeah.
Not a huge deal. It can be cleaned up, right? It'd be like, if your wife came in and spilled a glass of water on your bed. All right, that sucks. It's not the end of the world. Just clean it up, right? That's how I'd see it. Not ideal, but, just clean it up and you're fine.
Like through hypnosis, through...
Yeah, hypnosis, energy healing, my work. There's a lot of ways you could do that. Shouldn't be too hard. I think that'd be an easy one. Yep.
So I have to say something here. We're going to have you back again real soon.
Yeah.
Because I have,
awesome.
Because time is almost up, and I feel like we've just slightly just skimming the surface. Yep. There's so much.
Well, that's why I do the Heal-a-thon, so everyone can come and have a more full experience of, hey, this is what we do. This is how it works. Try it. See if you like it.
Okay.
But yes, I would love to come back. I'd love to come back and talk more about the advanced work, the awakening in the quantum field next time, something like that. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh, yes. And I got to get your last book too. So I will read that before we have you come back. All right. So I'm going through really quickly, putting up all these links up here so that they're all together. Oh, that was a YouTube snippet that we were going to show about one of the TV appearances that you made. You have NBC.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, but Brent was too interesting to just stop for a video.
So, yeah, we just did. We ran out of time, but I really, yes, we are absolutely going to have you back. I appreciate your time. I'm so glad. Talk about divine timing. with what I'm going through, with what Mama D's going through, with what Bob is going through right now, this puts a whole new perspective on how I'm looking at this healing. Because again, I'm sitting here going, you know, I leave a doctor's office going, I want results, I want an answer, and what do I get? More referrals, more tests. These, you know, well, these surgeries could work, you know what I mean? But there's complications. And all this, like when you are at your wit's end, you did mention it in here, when you're played it out, you're done with it, you know, the final straw, what are you doing? You know, and we work in this field, and I'm like, and I've never done this since I've, you know, my whole life. I never relied on doctors or anything like that until I came here. But I was working my life away too, though, you know, and then I stopped when I came here. And it's like, I feel like I've fallen apart. Now I feel like I'm a pincushion for doctors, and I have to stop that. It just has to stop.
Yeah. The trouble with a lot of doctors is that your doctor knows about as much as your emotional issues and stress as your mechanic does about fixing your sink, right? It's just not what they know. So,
right?
you know, you can't blame someone for being ignorant about something they know nothing about.
Yeah,
but you know,
like
they're good with it. They have their place. You know, doctors are good at a few things. You know.
It's,
you know.
It's like when my husband was ill and he was in the ICU. I had just started. I was a Reiki practitioner, and I just started it. And I went into the ICU, and I was going to start doing a treatment of Reiki on him. And he was like, "People will see," and I went, "I don't care." And then one of the nurses came in, and she looked at me, and she lowered her voice, and she said, "Are you doing Reiki?" And I went, "Yep." She goes, "Okay." She turned out the light, she backed out the room, and she left us alone for a half an hour. And I was like, yes. You know, it's the doctors kind of poo-poo me when I do talk about things like that, but the nurses get it.
Yeah, the nurses get it because they're the ones actually in the trenches taking care of the patients every day, right?
Like, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything against doctors. Y'all are adorable and whatever, but if it wasn't for the nurses, y'all would be, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing against plumbers. I just don't expect them to fix my car, right?
Yeah, no.
Well, my mechanic does plumbing. All right, we have to say good night to everybody. Thank you again. Hang with us for a few minutes, and you all. I don't know if do we have a show next week or do we not have a show?
We do have a show next week.
We do.
Yes, we just booked her.
Well, that's of the 20th, but I think next week might be hot. But anyway, all right. So whether we do it or not, maybe we'll do a pop-up reading show or something like that next week. But Brent,
get in touch. Let's do this again. This is fun.
Yeah. But we are going to be in touch. You're definitely part of the Fox 10 family now. You're amazing. We love you.
Whether he likes it or not.
I know. You're roped in now. Sorry. All right, everybody. Buonanotte. We love you.
Love Alice.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Fox 10 with Gina B and Mama D. We are here every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you a variety of guests. We stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, as well as all our Anchor FM venues. We hope you enjoyed our show, our guest, and our featured Crystal of the Week segment with Athena Bari, and we would also appreciate it and love it if you would go to our YouTube channel, The Fox 10 with Gina B and Mama D, subscribe, like, and definitely hit that notification button to never miss a show. We'll see you all next week, and subscribers, watch for our pop-up shows as well.